What is the greatest comeback to an insult you've ever heard? 1. During World War I, Switzerland had a tiny standing army, but they were very skilled marksmen. Wilhelm II of Germany asked what 250k Swiss troops would do if he decided to invade with 500k German troops. The Swiss said, shoot twice and go home. 2. My grandparents used to bicker. My grandmother generally came out on top, as she was feistier. One time though, she was asking him to do a bunch of stuff, and he muttered, if you'd lose some weight, you could do it yourself. She fixed her gaze on him and said, I'm thinking of getting rid of about 200 pounds of useless fat immediately. He replied, you're going to cut off your foot? 3. Someone yelled out in a Walmart, I'm not ashamed of who I am. Another voice echoed back, that's your parents' job. 4. Saw a clip of a stand-up comedian the other day, and he said something along the lines of, the first time I had a fun time it was terrible. And a woman chimes in with, you mean yesterday? The crowd laughs for a while, and while the comedian is waiting for them to calm down, you can see the gears turn in his head. Once it gets down to basically a few chuckles, he just says, glad you remember. And the crowd just lost their shit. It was amazing. 5. I asked my mother why she always wears makeup despite being in her 40s. She told me she wears makeup so she doesn't look like me. 6. A guy makes fun of his bald friend by rubbing his head and saying, wow, your head is as smooth as my wife's bottom. The friend also rubs his head and says, wow, you're right. 7. Winston Churchill, of course. Lady Nancy Astor says, Winston, if you were my husband, I'd poison your tea. Churchill responds, Nancy, if I were your husband, I'd drink it. 8. You sure do talk a lot for never saying anything. 9. My grandma asked my cousin, who did lots of partners and 2 kids at this point, if she was ever going to get married. Cousin says, it's not the same nowadays. We don't buy cars without test driving them first. Grandma says, yeah, but they don't let you put 100,000 miles on them either. Point goes to Granny. 10. The classic, you're adopted. At least my parents chose to have me. 11. It was an exchange between 2 coworkers a few years back, basically a shaming gone wrong. Person A had only ever been with one person, their previous girlfriend that they were still obsessed with. Person B was the opposite and would be with a different person every week. Person A, I can't believe how many people you've been with, I don't understand how people can get with someone they aren't in love with. Person B, well, your ex-boyfriend seemed to manage it okay. Person A, just silence as he dies inside. 12. David Letterman says, I'm not as dumb as I look. Tina Fey then says, how could you be? 13. Anything I've thought of more than an hour after the insult.